Hello, another podcast episode, and I want to talk about age and the obsession with age limitation. For some reason, the internet has this obsession. Um, if you remember back in 2018 or 2019, I did a video. It's still up, and it was a rant because at that time, the internet was saying that as soon as you hit 30, 35 years old, somewhere in there, that you needed to retire. You were done. No, you just needed to pack it up and get off the internet. And social media wasn't for you. And I just, where is this coming from? And so I remember saying on that video that, well, then go ahead and tell Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Tia Mowry, Avril Lavigne, a lot of these celebrities that are on YouTube to shut down their accounts. Can't wait to see how what's gonna happen with that. But at the same time, there was something that circulated on YouTube, I mean on Twitter that said, as soon as a woman turns 50, she's ugly. And I just remember flipping out over that. So, it's getting worse. This whole thing with this age limitation, why does the internet, okay, first of all, the first thing that I want to say to young people who are doing this. Now, I fully understand that not all young people are like this. The one thing that I hate more than anything are when people categorize everybody. It's like, because I see it all the time where there are people that are like, oh, why do all Americans do that? Not all Americans are like that. Trust me, I'm not like that. So I fully understand that not all young people are this ignorant. Okay. But why why? Do you not realize that you're going to turn 30? Okay. Because that train is coming. Okay, and it's gonna hit hard. Okay. So, it may help to just stop talking. Oh, good grief. I, you know, so yeah, we're gonna talk about that. That was the first thing that I wanted to say. When I was first diagnosed with epilepsy, I was having enough of a shitty time of it because I was diagnosed with something I didn't even know what it was. I had never heard of epilepsy in my life. I knew what seizures were, in health class, I had heard of what, and we were taught how to treat it and what to do when somebody goes down into a seizure and all this. But as for epilepsy, never heard of it. Okay. So these people all of a sudden were saying to me, this is a sign that you can't do this, you can't do that, and all this, they're dictating to me what I can and can't do. That's what the internet is doing. Stop. Just quit it. This obsession with age has gotten so out of control. It's ridiculous. Like, holy crap. And what does it get you? Like that's the part that I'm trying to figure out. When you're going around and you're telling people to get off the internet because they're in their 30s or in their 40s or whatever, or telling them that they can't do something, or it's weird that you do this because they're in their 30s. What's Where does it get you? So we're going to talk about this. Now, another thing that I want to talk about, I'm going all in right in the front, right right at the beginning. When I was on the mailing list, the mailing list did have a dark side. I have videos where I talk about the Newsies mailing list. The Newsies mailing list had a dark side. The administrators could be very bitchy. And when they decided that they didn't want somebody on the mailing list, they would go into blacklist mode. They would get all the other people on. I hated when that happened, and I was not the only one. Okay, I was actually blacklisted and I left. I was just like, this is the most immature thing I've ever seen. I'm gone. And but there was a single mom that actually joined the mailing list, and she nicest lady. She was like 35 years old at the time. I think this was like in 2005, somewhere in there. And yeah, and so the few of us that actually talked to her, she talked about how her son was a teenager and she had sacrificed her social life so that he could have one. And she had found the mailing list thinking that she could have a little bit of a social life and everything. And Newsies was her favorite movie. So, okay. But the administrators went into bitch mode. And they were talking about how, well, she's too old to be on the list. She should be taking care of her son and, yada, yada, yada. And the few of us that would actually defend her would be attacked. And she was actually driven off of the mailing list. And the administrators said, as well as the people who helped drive her off of the mailing list, said, "You're too old for Newsies." And I mean, I think back to that, and the people that helped to drive this woman off of the mailing list are now in their 30s, 30, 35, almost 40, and a lot of them are parents. So, by their own words, they're too old for Newsies. But yeah, I mean, but the thing is that these movies don't have age limits. And so I don't know where they just decided that they didn't want this person on simply because they were older. The rest of us were like in our early 20s and teenagers. She wasn't doing anything creepy. She was just wanting to chat with people. She really was not doing so and again, this is something that the internet is doing. They're wanting to put limitations on things all over the place, just like the mailing list did with the movie Newsies. Newsies does not have an age limit. It doesn't. Because if we really wanted to go there, we should start talking to those people that 20 some odd years ago, actually, it's not even 20 years ago yet, 15 something years ago, and say to them, you know, by your own words, you're too old for Newsies. But and then those people that told me that I couldn't do things because I had epilepsy, a thing that they didn't even know about until they were told about it. You know, that's the thing that so yeah, we're going to talk about this. Okay, because it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. The age limitation thing is just ridiculous, and I'm seeing it more. It was bad enough back when I did that rant video, but it's gotten worse. Absolutely gotten worse. You're turning into the bitchy administrators, and you're turning into those idiots that told me that I couldn't do things because I had a medical condition. Well, guess what? I did everything that they said I couldn't do. Yeah. Okay. So apparently, when you turn 30 plus years old, you can't do things. You can't navigate social media because you're too old. I got news for you. I remember taking classes to learn how to navigate the World Wide Web. I remember when it was invented by Al Gore. Sit down. Okay, if you think that you own the internet, nobody owns the internet. Okay, it's free. Kind of. Not really. Unless you're under the age of 10. Uh, Look, okay, people that I've talked to through the years, they have said that the teenage years were the worst. And I agree. I remember being a teenager. The hormones are raging, you're making stupid decisions, and puberty is a bitch. And I'm glad that social media, like everybody is filming everything, which why do you do that? Stop. And then you're like, well, how did you know that? Yeah, because you're filming everything. Stop filming everything. Put, put it away. Half the time, 95% of the time, people are mad at me because my phone is off all the time. So, I mean, like for the first time today, I actually used my phone instead of my parents' landline to call the pharmacy. I've never done that before. So I'm stepping into the 21st century. But yeah, the teenage years, you look back and you'll say that the teenage years was the worst for everybody. I mean, there's probably a few people that'll say it's, and that's fine. But for the most part, people say that it's absolutely terrible because of just, and and then you get in your 20s and you're pulling out of the awkward phase. And and this is where you think that it's gonna mellow out. I guess that's the right word to say. But you realize that this is your responsible phase. Oh my gosh. Uh, I'm supposed to pay rent. Do I want a family? Do I a wife, a kid, a husband, wife, kids? What am I doing? I got to pay all these bills. What am I supposed to do? I've been evicted. Oh no. And so yeah, it turns into just chaos because of all the responsibility that is piled up on you, and and it does get overwhelming. And so by your 30s, you get more relaxed because you've figured it out. And it gets, unfortunately, a lot of people in their 20s, they just think that that's supposed to be the party years. And so the responsibility is chucked out the window. And then they realize that they should have been more responsible through their 20s. And so they're not doing so well. And yeah, but but for the most part, uh, you know, eh, you know, 30, 35 years old, you know, it's that's when life starts to become more balanced. And then by your 40s, it's everything, the 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 scale has tipped in your favor. Not for everybody, but for the most part, that's where things are worked out. And so I mean, I just yeah, but let's I mean, let's look at some examples here of people over the age of 35. Okay, this age thing. Apparently in you like just yesterday I saw a video. It was recommended to me and it was a 100-year-old ballerina who did a flawless performance. Okay, it was her final performance. So she's been active for all these years, for decades. Okay, now a lot of times what happens, like they always say that, once you hit in your 30s, you're supposed to retire. You're lucky if you get into the 40s. Well, that's out the window. There was also the gymnast who was in her 70s or 80s, because I remember that in the last uh, Summer Olympics. Now she did want to be part of it and she was rejected. Now I understand why they rejected her because of safety reasons in case she got injured or something. I totally understand that. But it seems like if memory serves, they still let her perform. And so there are people over 50 who are performing like in gymnastics and everything else. There are football players, baseball players, wrestlers who are, they are still keeping themselves conditioned. They perform and I don't, as for entertainers, they still perform. As for athletes, I don't think that's the right word, but so this attitude that you have to retire, are you an expert on this? Look, as a former dancer, I say no. Fred Astaire, there's it's been circulating for 2, 3 years now where Fred Astaire performed at one of the Oscars. He was in his 80s. He was still performing. I don't know how many times he retired. Not as many times as Elton John, but I don't think Elton John ever will retire, to be honest. But and that's the other thing is that there's so many of these musicians that they say that they're going to retire and they don't. Elton John is a perfect example. I mean, but then you have these young people who they're like, well, it's weird that you're in your 30s and it's like I like what I do. I enjoy doing this. Why does it bother you? I'm not telling you to stop doing what you're doing. Oh, good grief. You know, um, did you ever stop to think that maybe, such as like myself, can't have kids? There are people who can't have kids or they don't want kids. And so they do things like they collect things. It's not weird. It's called having a hobby, for gosh sakes. The playing video games past. Okay, let me tell you something about the video game thing. Before Atari ever showed up, there are photographs of people in their 30s and 40s at the arcade just hanging out. They got beers in their hands, they got cigarettes hanging out, all over. That was their hangout. Okay. And then when Atari showed up, yeah, they were playing the games in their house. The only thing that makes this different from baseball or football or the sports is video. Okay. You got board game, video game, baseball game, football game, hockey game. If you're fine with the sports games, any age can watch. Don't come at me with the video games. Video games are for all ages, just like Newsies is for all ages. Don't go into bitch mode. Okay. Because holy holy shit. There's no age limit. Okay, and I know of grandparents that play these games so that they can connect with their kids. Parents do the same thing. Okay, relatives do this. So just back off. Okay, it's not weird. All right. And and the collecting of things and all this. I saw a perfect example on Twitter where somebody was attacked for having like plushies or something like that, or having a Pokemon collection. And they said, well, I didn't get to have this as a kid, and now as an adult, I can have this now. Yeah, it's not weird. You're and I kid you not, I'm sure that the very person who is attacking has their own little collection of something. So don't be hypocritical. They, I mean, it's just, no age limit. No age limit at all. But yeah, because a 30 or 40 something year old is collecting Pokemon. When did Pokemon have an age limit? I mean, who is that guy? Jonathan Young, who is singing the theme song and everything, which is an amazing cover of that because he actually has the original singer for and everything in the song. But and I believe he's in his 30s. So so are we just going to go after him too? Please don't, because he's amazing. But that's my point. You cannot be selective. You have all these celebrities that I mean, like Gerard Way absolutely loves Star Wars and he collects Star Wars. So are we going to go after him because of his Star Wars obsession? No, absolutely not. So if he loves Star Wars, don't go after other people who love Star Wars. I can't believe I remember that he loves Star Why is that stuff ingrained in my brain? I don't understand. Oh, good Lord. Oh man. But it's no, I can be, I mean, when I moved up to Seattle, I had I have a bag that has Green Day on it. Target carried these bags and it had the logo for all these different bands. It had like Aerosmith, Rolling Stone, Green Day, and it had like several others. And this was like back in the mid 2000s, and then by the time I was up there in 2009. Anyway, so I was walking around Seattle and somebody out of nowhere on the street said, "Hey, is that Green Day?" And I was like, yeah." And we just started talking. This guy was like in his 60s. And he started talking to me about seeing them in concert way back during the Dookie era. And he's like, "Oh, it was so great." And he's telling me about his experience. He's like, "Did you ever see them in concert?" I said, "Well, I saw him at Warped Tour." And he's like, "That's amazing." He said, "I wanted to see him at Warped Tour. I didn't get the chance." And and everything. So it was two different generations interacting. That's what it's supposed to be. That's how it is now that My Chemical Romance has returned. I have interacted with a lot of the younger fans, and it's great. And some of them can be a little snarky. I don't think that they understand that Frank's first language is sarcasm. So I think they're still trying to figure that out. And, I mean, but for the most part, I really enjoy talking with them, and they're really cool people. And but some of them call us out on our BS from way back when. Fair enough. Yeah, it's like, why did you Photoshop all these pictures? It's like, well, you had to be there on MySpace. We were we were stupid little shits. We really were. We lied to each other a lot too. Boy, did we ever. But and I mean, so yeah, I mean, the interaction is great. That's how it's supposed to be. And I mean, I loved the one. You know, my mom doesn't like Green Day. She really doesn't. And she told me one time she was like, "Oh, Christians will never have anything to do with Green Day." She was giving me this. And then we were going to a graduation party um for this family, this kid. We I used to babysit this kid. And so it was for a family friend, and we were going over there, and this guy who has known me since I was a little kid saw my Green Day bag, and he said that he saw Bullet in the Bible in concert. My mom's blood was boiling at that moment. Oh my God. I felt really bad. So I turned the bag around so that the logo wasn't there. And so I just found it really funny that she made the big speech, and then and then he was talking about seeing that concert and everything, and totally blew her whole argument out of the water. She was trying so hard to shame me and everything. But again, there is no age limit on this stuff. If the band scene embraces the age, why is it that everywhere else has such a problem with it? Like the age limit on like action figures, on video games. Again, it's a game. If you're fine with every age playing with Monopoly and all those board games with Clue, and there's no age limit on movies. I mean, when people are so accepting of every age with anime, then they're getting more accepting now than they ever were before. And but I saw recently where it was like they're trying to push the idea that it's weird for people in their 30s and 40s and 50s to cosplay. No, it's not. Okay. Like there was an older couple who were cosplaying as Link and Zelda. Protect them with your life. I mean, they are the most adorable couple and everything. And oh my gosh. Now there was a story that I saw. This was about 4 years ago, I think. And about a gentleman who was a veteran, and he had been having he was starting to struggle with his PTSD, and his daughter got him into cosplay. So he was cosplaying as Captain America, and it really helped. And um, so you never know someone's story as to why they're doing something. You're just being as ignorant as can be, and you're just deciding it's weird for no reason. It's weird because I say so. Well, elaborate. Why do you think it's weird? I want the full essay tomorrow on my desk. Because I gotta tell you something, I have all respect for cosplayers. I tried to make an outfit and it didn't go. I am not a seamstress, like by any means. Found that out the hard way. But I mean, like you have people who make these costumes from scratch because there's a lot of these outfits that they don't have the patterns. So here they are, they're making these outfits from scratch. And you think about it, you have like the people who are like men and women. I don't want to say seamstress because men and women. And seamstress is more of a woman title, but you get the idea of what I'm saying. So you have that, and then you also have metal workers who make like the like shields and swords and accessories to these to these outfits and everything. And I mean, just the detail work that goes into these outfits. I mean, even just the anime. I have a friend who would go to the anime conventions, and the outfits that she she was showing me a few of her outfits. I was like, "Oh my gosh, how long did that take you?" She would tell me about some, like one of them took her like 6, 7 months to make. And she told me that one outfit took her almost a year to put together. And you know, and I believe it because of the fact that a lot of the anime outfits uh are very detailed, very, very flamboyant. And because they can be super frilly, depending on the show and or the anime or what have you. And there's also makeup artists. I have seen makeup artists for these that just go above and beyond. So to sit there and tell me that this is just a kid thing, no, because you know this is next level stuff. I Because there are some people that even elaborate on uh things like the stormtrooper outfit. They like cross over on stormtrooper outfits, like Boba Fett outfits. They elaborate on that. I mean, so you see a lot of the crossover stuff happen all the time. And so it's not weird. Not weird at all. I mean, there was even a group that was the slave Leia, but they did the Disney princess touch to it. I thought that was kind of cool. I'm not big on the Disney princess. I think it's overdone at this point. That's my personal thing. And but I thought that was creative. I thought that was very, you forgot Princess Alonwe, but but I'll give it a pass. So, you know, so to take a costume that doesn't have a pattern at all and to put so much detail in it, and it's not just Link, Zelda, Captain America, Iron Man, and all of that. They do a lot of the background characters as well, and I think that that's yeah, it's not weird, people. I'd like to see your costume. This isn't just some Halloween stuff. No, this goes above and beyond. And now the other thing that I want to talk about, this is the thing that really just got under my skin was so last week, Amelia Clark uh put out one of those good morning posts, and a lot of people were just nasty in the comment section. Now, I guess she posted it on Instagram, but I saw it on Twitter. And people were just horrible. And now, first of all, I had no idea that Amelia Clark was in her 30s. I thought she was a lot younger. She looks younger than that. But Amelia Clark was in Game of Thrones. If you're unfamiliar, I never saw Game of Thrones. That was one that I didn't watch. I had a lot of friends who watched it. But she was in Han Solo movie. I did see that one. And but in the comment section of this post, at the very top, there were like three different people who pretty much went into the same spiel. They were talking about how, well, a woman, once she reaches 30, statistics talk about how her fertility goes down, her egg count goes down, and okay. Let, so let me get this straight. You're telling me that the only reason that you date women is if they're fertile, so that you can impregnate them. Thanks for letting me know you're one to avoid. Because that is creepy. Are we in ancient Rome? My gosh. Look, yeah, because we all know that in Pompeii there's all those penises everywhere, and we all know that it's a fertility thing and all this, and we all giggle like middle schoolers and all of this. But I'm gonna debunk the fertility thing, the woman's biological clock and all this right now. Okay, when I was a senior in high school, there was this big piece of news that yeah, which when I was a senior in high school, there was all this news like the 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 cloning of the sheep and yeah, big news like that. And then all of a sudden this popped up where this grandmother was pregnant and she gave birth to a healthy baby. Yeah, she was in her 50s or 60s. And when they found out that she was pregnant, they were actually really concerned because of her age. And yeah, they monitored her. And that's why it was such big news, is because they were afraid that carrying the baby would be an issue. But no, she was fine. The baby was fine, and gosh, the child would be in his 20s by now. Yeah, because I think she had a boy. And but now another example is my college professor. She had she was in her 50s and she had twins. So that it's more common than you think. Women in their between 40 and 60 having kids. It, there is a risk, of course. I'm not doubting that at all. But the idea that all of a sudden their ovaries shrivel up and die is just that no. It's not the 1950s anymore. Get off it. Oh my gosh. And who are you to get on your high horse? This attitude where it's like, well, because a woman, as soon as she hits 30, her whole body is just going to deteriorate and just shrivel up. Well, what about the guy? We all know that you're going to get a finger up the butt. Yeah, your body's going to shrivel up too. Okay. Just stop. Just stop acting like That's not going to happen to a guy. Okay. Okay, if you look at mythology, uh yeah, I loved looking at some of the responses, and it's like, "Oh yeah, we'll just turn immortal." And it's like, "Have you looked at mythology?" Yeah, Loki killed another person. And now we're kissing under that plant, which I find a little weird. I don't care what Frigga said. It's just weird. That's the murder plant. Look, you and then in Egyptian mythology, Set wanted to be Pharaoh, so he just kill off his brother and dismembered him. Yeah. And then Isis and her sister were in hiding. Like, come on. As she was trying to find her husband. Yeah, it's okay. I I mean, you go through all of mythology and you'll find that it's not so great. Maybe don't base it off of that Disney movie. Because, yeah, it's not. Zeus isn't a loving parent. Oh, man. Oh, because this is the other thing to understand is there are women who can't have kids, and there are women who just don't want kids. Okay. There are people who have medical conditions that make it very hard to have children. There are uh it's just the fact that and you also the other thing that really gets me about this is that you look at their age and decide, well, they're unattractive. The fact that I saw Amelia Clark and I didn't I didn't think that she was 30. There are people that look at me and I mean, I'm 40 and there are people that still think that I'm in my 20s. So it, so as soon as you find out that someone is in their 30s, a woman is in their 30s, that they're unattractive to you. As soon as that age is heard, that's unattractive. But as I was saying before, that see, with my epilepsy, there is an issue. Now, there are people with epilepsy, there are women with epilepsy that they have healthy babies, but there is a risk with pregnancy. And so there are a lot of women who just decide, I don't want to go through that. Me included. I don't want to go through that because the thing about epilepsy is it's you may have a healthy baby, but you may also have a baby with a birth defect. And and everything. I don't mean that to sound bad, but it's like I don't remember the percentage, but it's just that's one of the risks of with and it's just it's not enjoyable. That's something that is latched on to me. And yeah, I just remember coming home and, you know, when my doctor first said, yeah, there are risks with the pregnancy and everything, because, my mom wanted to have grandkids and everything. And she's like, great. So you just can't get pregnant. And I'm just like, thanks, I think. And it's kind of like at that moment, I kind of decided that I just didn't want to get pregnant. I just didn't want to have kids. And but it kind of worked out because of how crazy my life was going anyway. I mean, the stuff that I was doing anyway. I mean, I was in the concert scene, I was doing all kinds of other stuff, other fun stuff, and so it was like add a baby to the mix. It was just a real drag. I just didn't want to, yeah. Responsibility? I don't want that. So, but yeah, I mean, that was one that really got under my skin because of the fact that here you are, you're trying to say that women in their once they hit 30, their fertility goes down, their biological, it's such an outdated mindset to have, especially when there are women like at 35 plus years old who are having healthy babies. You just need to stop. And especially when men in their, who are 35 plus years old, their their bodies deteriorate as well. You're not void of this. Okay? So just stop. It's not like one gender completely deteriorates and the other one is just fine. No, that's not how this works. That's not what happens here. No. Uh-uh. No, no. You can get off the soapbox now. So anyway, at the end of the day, I think we can go ahead and stop with the age limitations. Okay, everybody can enjoy. There are no age limitations on video games. There is no limitations on cosplay. If you think it's weird, well, that's on you. Okay, if you think it's weird that people over 30, 35 years old play video games, that's on you. Okay, but I'm going to tell you right now, that 30 train is coming after you. There was a story as I'm closing up. I'm just remembering there was a story that I read when I was in grade school. I don't know if anybody even remembers it, but it was called Staying Nine. And the main character of this story, she was going to have her 10th birthday, and she didn't want to turn 10 years old. And her parents said, well, I'm sorry, but that's life. Okay. You can't stop this from happening. And she says, no, I'm going to stay nine for the rest of my life. And so the whole story goes with this main character just fighting the idea, even though her parents were planning her 10th birthday, she was still fighting the idea that she was not going to turn 10 years old. And I feel like that's what this whole thing is about. You're making decisions for everybody else, the internet is, and the young people, again, not I know that not all young people are like this. Before I'm not categorizing everybody. And but that 30 train is going to hit hard. Okay, but again, please understand that 30 is not that bad. I actually enjoyed 30 a lot better than I enjoyed 20, that's for sure, my 20s. And so I mean, and there are people in their 50s that are enjoying their 50s a lot better than they enjoyed their 20s. So just you need to chill. Okay. If you think that being older means that you're just crippled up and you're taking all these medications and everything and you're sitting in a rocking chair, we're not in the Victorian era anymore. Absolutely not. I mean, Angela Lansbury was working until the day she died. Same with Betty White. So I think you need to rethink your idea of old. Okay, especially when we are binging on the Golden Girls. And I mean, it's just, oh, good heavens. All right, I'm gonna stop here.